Desiree's Dream. Chapter 13. Finally, transportation. The summer sun had given way to a chilly autumn breeze, and the leaves rustled in the wind, scattering across the alley in a kaleidoscope of colors. Alex and Desi had worked tirelessly during those warm months, knowing their survival depended on their preparedness for the harsh winter ahead. Alex, always the practical one, had instilled in Desi the importance of saving for a rainy day. And Desi, wise beyond her years, trusted his guidance implicitly. On a particularly dreary Monday, with rain pounding against the wooden boxes and the sky hanging low, Alex was roused by Desi's eager tapping on his shoulder. "Alex, wake up," she urged, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "You need to get up now." Still groggy from sleep, Alex turned over and sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. "What's all the fuss about?" he asked, his voice thick with sleep. "We can get breakfast later. There's no need to rush out in this weather." Undeterred by his reluctance, Desi stood outside his box in the pouring rain, her slender frame shrouded in a blanket. "We have to go shopping," she declared, her voice rising above the patter of the rain. "You always say to save for a rainy day, and look, it's pouring. I want to spend my money on something fun." Alex couldn't help but chuckle at her enthusiasm, her words echoing in the alleyway. "You're a force of nature, Desi," he said, shaking his head. All right, let's get going then. But first, you need to get out of this rain." The rain hammered against the rooftops and alleyways for an eternity. Desi, ever so patient, changed into a dry dress and brushed her long, wet, silky hair. The sound of the rain had a soothing effect, and she hummed, stroking her guitar as she prepared for the day ahead. Suddenly, Desi heard the familiar sound of Alex's footsteps approaching. She peered around the corner, her heart warming at the sight of her dearest friend. "Come on, Desi, the rain has stopped," Alex said, his voice warm and inviting. "Let's go get some breakfast, and then we'll see about doing some shopping." Desi's eyes lit up at the mention of shopping, and she sprang up, her enthusiasm getting the better of her as she bumped her head into the low ceiling of her wooden box. "Ouch!" she cried out, rubbing her head. She quickly gathered her burlap bag, and the jingling of coins was music to her ears. Alex, always the gentleman, offered his hand to help her up. "Are you all right, Desi? You gave me a scare." Desi assured him she was okay, her fingers finding the small bump on her head. "Where are we off to after breakfast?" she asked, curious and eager. With a twinkle in his eye, Alex took her hand and said, "We're going to buy a horse and wagon." Desi's eyes widened at the prospect, and she hurried to keep up with his long strides, her mind racing excitedly. "A horse?" she whispered as if saying it louder might make it disappear. Alex grinned and continued down the street, their boots echoing on the wet pavement. The cafe bustled with activity, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon filling the air. Sensing Desi's eagerness to get their horse and wagon, Alex bypassed the crowded restaurant and headed straight for the livery stable. Desi was in a flurry of excitement as she envisioned all their adventures with their new mode of transportation. Before she knew it, they had arrived at a large, rustic red barn, its wooden walls weathered by the elements. Alex instructed Desi to wait outside while he spoke to the blacksmith, and as he walked away, he motioned to an old saddle on the ground. "Sit there, I'll be right back," he said, his tone gentle but firm. Desi obeyed with a slight huff, excited and irritated at being told what to do. She watched Alex disappear into the barn, her mind racing with naughty ideas. "I could get him back for bossing me around," she thought, a mischievous glint in her eye. "A little horse manure might teach him a lesson." She giggled at the thought, her eyes never leaving the barn door. As if reading her thoughts, Alex reappeared, his face just inches from hers. "Desi, he said, his voice soft and insistent. Desi, startled from her reverie, looked up at him, her eyes wide. "What is it?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Alex's expression softened, and he bowed his head slightly. "I need your help," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I am short $3 to buy the horse and wagon." Desi sat up, her eyes searching his. A silence hung between them as they shared a moment of unspoken understanding. Then, swiftly, Desi reached into her bag and pulled out the coins she had been saving. She placed them in Alex's outstretched hand, her heart both heavy and full of hope. Alex's fingers closed around the coins, and he turned and ran back into the barn. Desi's heart sank as she realized the weight of her sacrifice. She had been saving for something special Alex needed, but at that moment, she knew their shared dream was more important. She sat there, feeling a mix of emotions, waiting for Alex to return. Then, as if by magic, the barn doors swung open, and there he stood, leading a beautiful mare hitched to a sturdy wagon. Desi's breath caught in her throat at the sight, her earlier worries melting away. She rushed over, her eyes shining with delight. "Can I ride him?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. Alex smiled, his pride evident as he helped her onto the wagon. "Let's go." "I'm starving, and by the way, the horse is a she, not a he," he said, eyes sparkling with a childlike joy. Desi sat back as they set off, taking in the sights and sounds of their journey. Squirrels scampered alongside them, the crisp air refreshing from the stuffy alleyways. They had spent all their savings, but the sense of freedom and possibility made it worthwhile. As they returned to the alley, their bellies full and their hearts content, Desi knew their adventures had only begun again.